He's been trying to reach out to me telepathically, but that stasis field interfered. When his message finally broke through, I came to rescue him.
What's he doing here?
The invasion. I came to warn you, but I was captured and imprisoned here. They wouldn't listen.
Big surprise.
I sense you do not trust me. Perhaps this will help. I am Jean Jones.
I want to talk a little bit about you going into the world of voice acting. Now, here on this page, I'm a huge fan of the craft of voice acting and voiceover work. So I always love asking this question to phenomenal people such as yourself who start on stage, and then of course you have such a beautiful career on camera, but you have this neat little pocket with the voice acting world. So I'm curious, how did you get into the world of voice acting?
I have one individual to credit. Her name is Andrea Romano.
The GOAT.
Yeah,
the GOAT.
yeah,
Yes.
and that is the reason why I do voice. She hired me for my first voice job. I did a few of them with her, and then she came to me one day and said that there was something she wanted me to try out for, which was Martian Manhunter. And before she brought Martian Manhunter to me, she kept saying, "I think you could do well in this business. You have a good voice." And
she was right. She was right.
But she was a tremendous director. And once again, every session I did with her prior to Martian Manhunter, prior to Justice League, subsequent to it, I held certain ideas that I felt I got from her. She would listen. There it is again. She would listen so completely and with such specificity, and she could hear you do something, and she would say, "That is good. That is good. What if you try it with a little of this? What if you try it with a little of that?" And so it's it became like making soup, and so direction became not an intrusion, but there's more, and it was an encouragement. And so I think that has always been a part of what I wanted to do. So voice work for me was perhaps being able to risk a little more in a certain way, take a certain chance. And with Jean Jones, that's what took place, because she said he was Martian. That was all she really said. And she said, and so I just would like to hear what you think is a Martian. And because I had already been encouraged to kind of like, scamper about on the margins of what I thought might be acceptable, I thought, why not take the risk? And I thought of Jean Jones as sort of like the ultimate immigrant who was the only one who was able to make the journey from Mars to Earth, that he had lived for a long time without his culture. And so there were certain resonances that made made a certain kind of sense, taken from, whether it was voluntary or not, deprived of your homeland and forced to find not just a place to land, but a place where you could contribute to a society or the idea of a society that you believe in. That's what Jean Jones found. And I think that's what the task was for certainly my parents and for almost every immigrant family who came to this country and around the world. So Jean Jones for me became the ultimate immigrant.
That's such a beautiful way to look at such an interesting character. Martian Manhunter always stuck out to me the most when watching the cartoon as a kid, and that's me and my mom's favorite cartoon, so we're always rewatching it and just gaining new things from it. And that character always struck a chord to me because of that very fact of how you viewed him and how you played him. I gotta ask personally because I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but you're the first actor to ever play Martian Manhunter, at least for the public. You're the first person to ever bring this character to life in general. How does it feel to see all the other Martian Manhunters that have come after you, both in live action and in the animated format?
It feels great. It feels great because I think these characters have room in them for a lot of people. It gives them staying power and traveling power. So the fact that one of the joys of my career was being able to be a part of the live action Supergirl, where Jean Jones was portrayed by David Harewood.
I am the sole survivor of my planet, the last son of Mars.
Who I thought was a magnificent Jean Jones, magnificent Martian Manhunter, and the tremendous gift of being able to play that character's father, Marin Jones, MY''RNN, was John's father, who had survived, unbeknownst to Jean, which is what I love about the world of comic books, is you can always live again. He didn't know that he had survived, and he went back to Mars and got him and brought him in. So again, it was to me just a continuation of that amazing immigrant story. David is an extraordinary actor and an amazing individual, and I think what he did in bringing Jean Jones to life was just sweetness. So it was a real joy, and the other voice actors who get the opportunity, I'm just happy for them, because Jean is a wonderful, wonderful character. I feel fortunate that I was able to slide in there first and make a mark. But it's kind of like when you make a mark on a tree. The first mark made is actually going to look taller because the tree is growing, but there are other marks that are going to be made that are right up there, if not
I
beyond yours. And you always want people to, I don't know, do better, you know?
I think for me, you're saying, people could. Yeah, I don't think anyone could do Martian Manhunter like you do it, man. And I'm not just saying that because you're here. It's just that like there's something so amazing about what Andrea Romano created with you guys. Like genuinely, like she created such a landmark series with phenomenal performers. I mean, look at how many of the actors have gone on to portray these characters in different formats.
Mhm.
George Newbern, Susan
Right,
Eisenberg has played Wonder Woman for years. I
right.
mean, who
Phil
does
Lamar,
who does
Maria.
John Stewart as Phil? Like no one does it like Phil, man. Come on,
No,
come on.
no,
Like
no.
there's been others, but like you guys as a unit and as a cast really took these characters to new heights. So it's just hard for me to imagine anyone else of those characters. Same as God rest his soul, Kevin Conroy is
Mm,
Batman. I
mm,
cannot
mm,
imagine
mm.
anyone else playing Batman.
Well, one of the things you
Seriously.
said that I think is so important, Joshua, is we were a cast, and Andrea treated us like a company. As I've moved along and doing different voice jobs, I realized that we were really privileged because for most of those, we got to be in the same room with one another, in the same studio while we were recording. So we felt like a company. And quite often, there was such a joy in being there while George and Kevin and Maria and Phil were doing their thing, and all of the wonderful guest people who came in to do voices. Again, it's like an academy. You got to work and learn at the same time, and there was a joy created, and perhaps that smaller audience was what we had in mind, and maybe that's why it could reach larger audiences in the way it did, because we were of one accord. And again, that was Andrea Romano, who I just think what she did and what she has done, not just in this, but what she did with her career, was just brilliance. And again, keyed in completely on listening, which obviously for voice work, that's kind of important. Um, but
Yes.
it became much more important to me to feel that harmony that we got in those episodes. There was something about us that was um, like a chorale choir, and so I liked singing.
Beautiful. Like you're describing it earlier. It's a perfect soup of all of you guys just coming together, and the elements from the writing and the animation and the talent, just making something so long lasting that continues to be celebrated now. I mean, look at all the conventions. I mean, those guys are going to cons all the time and they're selling out just because of this show. You know,
Absolutely, absolutely.
it's wonderful. What do you remember from the audition of Martian Manhunter? And how would you describe the voice you make for Martian Manhunter? I'm such a nerd for this stuff. So how'd you craft that voice?
I thought of someone who was really lonely and who had not ever thought that he would feel a part of something, who stumbled across this possibility, this planet with these strange beings called humans. None of them like Martians. None of them could discorporate. None of them could read other people's minds. None of them were as strong. None of them could fly, except for this group. And so these were, you know, this was these were his people. Whether they were like him in terms of where they came from, they were like him in practicum. They were dedicated to making their society a better place, and he could align himself with that. But he was by himself. There was no one who knew, no one who carried his experiences, no one who had seen the kind of tragedy, no one who had found himself homeless in the way John Jones was, and tired. I mean, the man was what, 900 years old.
He's up there, yeah.
He found new life. He found joy at 900 on this planet, and grew to a place where he became conversant with some of the things we deal with, like love and jealousy and pettiness. It's one of the things that I think was, well, I guess by now many people understand it, but Justice League talked about some very, very amazing themes. And it wasn't didactic at all. You were led into it by your attachment to these individuals who once again were fighting to try and keep this thing that they believed was so important, and they believed it was important for everyone. So anyone who would disrupt that definitely was on the wrong side of the Justice League. And when you are fighting for justice, you have to keep in mind those things that make you the proper vessel, receptacle, tool to carry forward those ideals. You can't cross the line and still be involved with justice. And you can't want justice for a small group of individuals and not want it for everyone. John had all of these skills, as did all of the Justice Leaguers, but I thought that what was most important for me about him was that his true power was contained. He could probably have ripped apart all sorts of things, blown stuff up, done a lot of killing, but his true power was in what he was able to contain. And sometimes that means holding on to that urge you have to just, get back and really concentrating perhaps even more on, well, what is the condition of this poor fool who insists on working in opposition to a natural beautiful force? And maybe there's a way of opening them by, especially by remaining true to and standing firm inside my own principles and our principles as a group. So that was what empowered him in for me, and the voice really came out of someone who I thought hadn't had a conversation with another being for 500 or 600 years. That once you began to speak, there was a part of that voice that you had to keep inside yourself. So as he began to talk, it's funny because I don't do Jean unless unless I'm in Jean mode. Because that's not me. I have my voice and I get to be full voiced and I don't care. But Jean had to be cautious. He had to be careful. And as the years went by, as he came out more and more, there's an episode that I really loved, which was the Christmas episode, where Superman brings Jean Jones home for Christmas. And at the end of that episode, Jean sings a traditional Martian song of celebration, not unlike a Christmas carol or a hymn. He's not singing it to anyone, he's singing it to himself, out to his universe. And that was the most joyful expression Jean had. That was the one moment where he could let himself go in song. I thought that was just ideal. And even though Andrea sprung that on me, we're going to need a Martian song. Don't think about it now. We'll do it at the end of the session. I'm forever grateful. I'm forever grateful. Yeah.